Hi, today we are going to be doing another problem, question number 3. And in this one, we are required to prove that the limit as x approaches 3, x squared minus 4x equals negative 3, using the precise definition of a limit, which is the epsilon delta definition. So we're going to go ahead and write step number 1. There are a few things to jot down before we start this problem. So we're going to go ahead and write this equation out. The limit as x approaches 3. X squared minus 4x equals negative 3. And we need to remember these key things. So epsilon is greater than 0 and delta is greater than 0. And another thing we need to know is the original equations. So I'm going to write this over here as well. So we have 0 less than absolute value of x minus c less than delta, and then absolute value of f of x minus L, which is less than epsilon. So these are some key things to remember while going through this problem. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to label everything because this is incorrect. We need to know what to plug in and where. So if you'll notice, this 3 right here at the limit, that equals our c value. This part of the function right here is the f of x, and this 3 is the L value. So we're going to go ahead and plug these into the equation I had written on the right side. So step number 2. So we have 0 less than the absolute value of x minus 3 less than delta, then equals the absolute value of our x squared minus 4x, which is our f of x value. And then it would be minus L, but we have a negative right here, so plus 3 less than epsilon. Now the first thing we're going to do at this point is we need to factor out this portion of the equation so it's a little bit easier to deal with. So within these absolute value bars, we have the x minus 3, x minus 1. Now if you're wondering how I got that, I will demonstrate on this side. Minus 4x plus 3. This is simple factoring. So we do the A, C, B method. This is A, B, C. So you multiply your A value times your C value. So the A is 1, which is in front of the x squared. So 1 times 3. AC is 3. And we just take this negative 4. And whatever you multiply, so whatever this value is, has to add up to equal this value. So what can I multiply times each other? Then when I add them up, they'll equal negative 4. And those values are negative 3, negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 3 is 3, which gives us our AC, and negative 3 times negative 1, or negative 3 plus negative 1 is negative 4. And that is how we got that and plug that in on this side. And we're just going to rewrite the less than epsilon. Now at this point, normally, we would only have one of these and a number. So say, for example, you'd have x minus 3, 5, less than epsilon. And at that point, you divide 5. Then you have x minus 3, absolute value is less than epsilon over absolute value of 5. But in this case, we do not have that, so we have to get creative with the solution. So I'm going to erase that. And at this point, so the reason we can't just divide by this, divide by that, so then you'd have that, because you can't have this x and minus 1 or x on the bottom. So we can get rid of that again. So going back to what we've written over here in this box, that delta is greater than 0. So we're going to go ahead and find a value. We're going to pick the easiest one, which is 1. So we're going to take our absolute value of x minus 3, and we're going to set less than the number 1, which is we're using to replace our delta, which is equals 1. So in true absolute value form, we're going to rewrite that like this to make it easier to solve this equation. And at this point, we need to make this x minus 3 in the middle equal to x minus 1, because that's the one we're trying to get rid of, for a lack of better words. So we're going to add 2 plus 2 plus 2, because what you do to one part, you have to do to all the rest. And that is going to give us a 1 less than absolute value of x minus 1 less than number 3. And this number 3 will become very important in a second. So we're going to rewrite this side of the equation that we had before. Or I'm sorry, I misspoke. This part of the equation. So we have the absolute value of x minus 3 times x minus 1 is less than. So we're using what we got here. For a lack of better terms, we're replacing this because we can't use our x minus 1 value because it can't be under epsilon. So that is what we did here. This number 3 is a replacement of that. So I'm going to rewrite my absolute value of x minus 3, and this 3 that we got here is going in there in place of the x minus 1. And you will see why in a second, because at this point now we need to solve to get the x minus 3 by itself. So by doing that, we're going to divide by this 3 on that side. So now we have x minus 3 is less than epsilon over 3. And that equals our delta as well. So this is the final product. And these are all the steps.